O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hi everybody and welcome back to the Kawoosh podcast. My name is Arne and I am joined as always by...
Me, I'm Evie. Hi.
And we are watching the 6th episode of Stargate SG-1 titled Cold Lazarus, which was misspelled on the DVD menu for some reason.
Yes.
We start the episode with Teal'c with sunglasses on a desert planet full of blue crystals in yellow sand.
And I noticed that it was not another forest planet, because last time we made a point of saying that a lot of worlds would be forest, and this one very much was not a forest.
Yeah, it's very alien.
Which made me wonder, how did they get the colors to pop? Because it's very yellow and it's very blue.
I think it might have been done in post.
Okay.
Like you can probably get the sky to be as blue, but to have the sand be as yellow, I think you'll have to do that in post. But because none of the stuff that they're wearing or their skin tones are close to the sand, you can probably isolate it and just crank up the color on that.
Yeah. It looks very alien.
It's also only a few scenes. It's not a lot of screen time.
Exactly.
So there are
Crystals. All over.
I have some weird stuff written down here. I need to check my spelling when I do this.
Oh boy.
But yeah, there are a bunch of blue crystals around the gate, and Carter is testing them, telling them they are granite crystals and they're not volcanic. And most of them seem to be broken, blasted apart, and they can't find any real whole ones. Jack is bored and he starts wandering off and he goes over one of the hills. Yeah.
He's like, oh no, science is happening. I'll be over there.
And he finds a field of crystals, goes in and he finds one very big crystal.
Yeah.
And we get a point of view shot from within the blue crystal. So it's all blue and warped.
And it's very 90s. I haven't seen that effect since the 90s. It's very warped and it goes like a little bit like in the movie with Denzel Washington and the cat at the end.
Yeah, Fallen?
I think so. Like the murderer touches people and then he goes into them and stuff.
You also have this warping effect.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Jack touches the crystal, always a good idea to touch stuff you don't know, and he flies off and gets knocked out. And then we see a shot of Jack looking at himself confused, and he picks up his hat. We hear the others call Jack to return, and he picks up his weapon and heads towards the calling voices, leaving the knocked out Jack on the planet.
I feel like the actor does a really good job of immediately letting us know, like, this isn't Jack getting up and getting back through the gate, because his expressions as this alien entity are really good. Even the way he moves his body, it's
like he's getting used to the body.
Yeah. It's very well played.
So the team arrives at Stargate Command, and Jack is looking around very confused, and we cut to opening titles. Afterwards, Carter is briefing Hammond, while Jack is standing off at the window looking out into the gate room, confused. There's a lot of confused looks coming from Jack in this episode. And we flash back briefly to a point of view shot from the crystal.
Because this is the time when it could have been possible that you missed the opening, before commercials. So they always did like this very quick recap of what you might have missed.
Yeah. And in the background, Carter and Daniel are continuing the briefing, and they want to examine the crystals they brought back. But while they do that, they are on stand down. Then Jack comes up to his locker. I noticed that the locker next to him was Ferretti's. So Ferretti in canon is still in the SGC.
Who is Freddy again?
His old teammate from the movie.
Oh, okay.
You had Kowalski
Yeah.
that got taken over, and then you had Ferretti, the jokey one.
Is Freddy a last name?
Yeah, Ferretti.
Ferretti.
Ferretti,
I don't
yeah.
know why I understood Freddy. Okay.
Jack goes through his locker and finds a box at the bottom with pictures and a wedding band, and he rummages through it, and all the way at the bottom is a picture of Jack and his son, which triggers a flashback to his son playing baseball. Carter comes in. hinting that Jack should get out so she can change her clothes. But
Which means that they only have one changing room, which is
it's a bit weird. There is more than one female officer on the base, so they should have a separate dressing room, right?
I don't know what the rules are back then, like both in the 90s and in the army. I don't know.
Well, it was...
Maybe they just divided them up by teams because that was easier. And then
Could be, yeah. And
I
then
don't
just
know.
have time slots. That's what she implies.
I
that,
think
like,
scenario-wise, they just needed them in the same room.
yeah, that is what it was, but... So Jack doesn't really talk to her, takes some envelopes with him and exits.
But, you know, this is where Carter does realize, like, oh, there's a kid, you're married, and there's some assumptions made.
Yeah, Carter
Like,
gets filled in by Daniel on the death of Jack's son and the
Yeah.
fact that he isn't married anymore.
Yeah.
And then in the hallway, Teal'c confronts Jack because Jack promised that he was going to show him the world, but Jack brushes him off. Daniel and Carter, meanwhile, talk about the fact that she didn't know any of the backstory of Jack. And they enter the science room, and there's a very big crystal there. And apparently it's emitting a low-level EM signal. Daniel tells Carter about how Jack's son shot himself with Jack's weapon. Meanwhile, Carter is examining the crystal and finds burn marks on it, which is strange because quartz doesn't burn easily. Jack arrives at his old house and he finds his ex-wife there. She's obviously surprised and kind of annoyed to see him.
Yeah, I wouldn't say surprised. I would say upset.
And she's working on her car and wants to know what he's doing there. He tells her he needs Charlie and he wants to know where he is, which shocks his
Upsets her even more.
Yeah, and she gets mad when he starts calling out to Charlie. But Jack doesn't seem to understand, and she runs off. Then Sarah's father comes out and invites Jack in.
Which I thought was very nice, because you can see that Sarah's father is concerned for her, but he doesn't blame Jack.
Yeah,
And
for such a big part, it's really well done.
Yeah.
It's really well acted. You can feel like they had a bond before, and there's still some lingering friendship there. Like,
yeah, and he's always gonna, stick up for Sarah first, but he understands that, Jack also has...
Yeah, which is kind of normal because he's family, but he has he's one step further away, so it allows him to kind of see the whole picture between them.
But they could have just as easily said, like, no, you're no longer family. There's plenty of people that act that way.
But I love the fact that they went that route with the father.
Absolutely.
Teal'c enters a room in the base with TV and finds a remote and he switches it on and it's the news.
I love the trope where otherworldly creatures find a TV and that's their first look into our world.
It's always the best impression also.
It is always, the Gargoyles have a scene like that too, where Hudson finds a TV. I don't know. You never saw Gargoyles?
Bits and pieces.
How dare you? But this is this big gargoyle from the medieval times, and he finds a TV and he turns on a rock concert. That's... Anyway, Teal'c finds a TV, sorry.
Yeah, he switches it on and he sees the news, so it's a lot of violence, crowds, noise, loud music, so we also see some rock music, and he switches it off.
I love how everybody always thinks, you know what would upset people? Rock music.
It is kind of loud.
True.
Daniel and Carter run in, and Teal'c mentions their world is a strange place.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, but they want his staff weapon to test something. So, meanwhile, Jack is sitting in his son's old bedroom, and he continues to see flashes. He doesn't seem to understand what happened. He expected to find Charlie, not only his stuff. Her father tells him Sarah comes up here to talk, so maybe he can try that. But he warns Jack not to break her heart again. And the father leaves. Looking around the room, Jack finds stuff that gives him a flashback to him and Sarah. They are having a happy moment, and then a gun goes off.
Yeah, that was intense. This has been an intense episode all around. It's very serious.
Yeah, so Richard Dean Anderson didn't really want to play like Kurt Russell, the stoic, silent hero, but they did go into this one, and they actually went a lot farther than the movie did. So
yeah, it's not the stoic hero as such. There's a lot of emotion in there, and he dares to be, like vulnerable in it. Like by the time we actually get to the real Jack, this isn't the real Jack yet.
No,
But he plays it really well as an actor.
because he starts to understand the emotion, and you see it in his eyes and in his motions that he's starting to understand that something happened here.
Yeah.
So Sarah finds Jack in the room. She watches for a moment and then leaves. In the SGC, they are testing the staff weapon on the crystal, and alarms go off when Teal'c fires it. And Teal'c is confused and asks if they had permission for that.
I love how Teal'c wants to follow the rules so bad, but he also assumes his team is in the same mindset, and they're
but
just not. They
Those
just
two
do
are
whatever they
supposed
want.
to be the responsible ones.
I know. He's like, you're testing stuff and you're scientists. Here you go. Oh, am I in trouble now? And I do love how they use these little humoristic beats because this episode really needs them.
Yeah.
They come at just the right time to make it that the story doesn't drag you under completely.
To lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, but not too much. It's not slapstick. But I do love all these little Teal'c moments, like a lot of my notes are.
So, they blast the crystal and then they go scan it and compare the blast marks. And they conclude that the Goa'uld destroyed the crystals, although they don't know why. Then Jack comes into the living room where Sarah is waiting for him there, and she wants to know why he suddenly showed up. And he tells her he needs to get back to the Stargate. She doesn't know what that is.
She doesn't have clearance.
Yeah, and she's really annoyed because he isn't really talking to her again. She has tears, and he wants to know what's wrong. She wants to know what's wrong with him because he's really acting off. In the base, they are scanning the crystal, and Daniel sees something inside of it, and it forms his face for a moment. Carter doesn't believe him, but she leans in, and it forms her face, asking, "Help us."
And I know we need this for the story, but science-wise, these are not the most careful people.
Let's stick our face into it.
They just, something happened. What was it? Stick your face in it and see. Like, what are you... They didn't even put on, like, one of them had safety goggles on when they fired that.
When they fired it,
when
not
it
now.
fired the staff weapon. Like, not even all of them. I mean, it's very sciencey, though, because you always have these people that cut corners, but it just makes me laugh sometimes.
Well, in Daniel's case, I could kind of
Oh,
go
absolutely.
For it.
He's very much, I'm sure it's fine.
He's too enthusiastic
Yeah.
to think. Carter, though, she should have known better. But, yeah.
Yeah, but she gets, like, if she gets intrigued enough, she does. Like, you can definitely see, like, I love how they play all their characters, because Daniel is very much like, oh, let's just walk straight into it. You know, he's very much Janeway, like, oh, there's an anomaly, let's go closer.
Let's go into it.
Let's go into it. Meanwhile, Carter is reserved, but if she gets, like, intrigued enough, she will be tempted to
She
cross
does
that
want
line.
to know what it is.
Yeah.
She wants to solve everything.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Teal'c is there being like the most responsible of them all, and Jack is just
Every
out there
time.
touching things. Like they're basically an RPG group.
Yeah.
Basically. Sorry, I did.
No, it's
derailed
fine.
you. Carter's face appears in the crystal.
Yeah, and then the alarm goes off. There's gate activation, and Daniel, Carter, and Hammond watch from the control room as Jack comes through the gate, and he's yelling at them why they left without him.
Good point.
They take him into custody, watching his cell from a security camera, and they watch as he yells at them to let him out again.
Which Jack yells a lot at security cameras throughout this series, and it's always funny.
It's also very clear, like, okay, this is Jack.
Yeah, they're like, who is this? Like, no, this is
So they immediately go for, where's the other one?
because we're pretty sure this one is ours.
Yeah, and they are looking around in the base, but they can't find him.
And since this is the 90s, they don't have cell phones to just call him and be like, hey, yo, where are you?
No, they don't have cell. I think they're gonna come up in the series, like the old flip phones and everything.
Don't they start off like these really big ass? I don't know.
They might have those on missions.
Yeah.
Because I think the military had those,
Yeah,
like
but
car phones
I know, but
kind of things.
the point remains they have to leave
Yeah.
to go and find him.
We cut to Sarah and Jack sitting on a bench talking about the past, and he tells her he left because he thought she was angry after what happened. And at the end of their conversation, Jack falls down with blue lightning crackling around his body. Sarah helps him up and she wants to get him to a hospital. Meanwhile, in the base, they confirm that Jack is, in fact, Jack. So now they want to know who the first one was. Carter says maybe the crystal they brought back may have the answer. Because maybe the crystals on the planet copied Jack. So they go to the science room and talk to the crystal. Carter says hello and the face forms again. And it says it needs to return because their energy is waning. It was afraid before because they look like the Goa'uld and they gathered the Goa'uld gathered the crystals and destroyed them after one of them was killed for touching a crystal. And Daniel asks what anyone would do if they were afraid your species might be wiped out a second time.
I feel like Carter is really good at first contacts. I feel like she handled that really well.
But that may be because she's a bit more analytical and not
Yeah.
too emotional.
Well, yeah, but there's enough emotion in there.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, McKay, he
Yeah, but he blunders into everything.
well, yeah, but he's very sciencey, and then like he sometimes lacks that emotion.
Sometimes.
Like sometimes, but okay, this is not a diss to the character, by the way, because that is one of my favorite characters also. But yeah,
Yeah, it is, but it's also one of mine. But when he shows up in SG1, he doesn't have the depth.
he shows up already. I forgot
He's gonna
that.
show up in SG1. He's a character
Oh.
from SG1 that they brought to Stargate Atlantis. But when he
Okay.
shows up in SG1, he doesn't have the depth he has
Yeah,
in
two-dimensional.
Atlantis. He's
Yeah.
very much the leering misogynist going after Carter.
Ooh.
So
Oh, she's gonna eat him alive. I
she
don't
does.
remember
She
this
does.
one.
She does.
Cool. All right.
So I'm actually looking forward because he's one of my favorite characters. I want to find out how he shows up the first time again.
All right. So we have to do all of these, and then we have to do Stargate Atlantis.
If we still want to do it by then.
I mean, did you have any retirement plans? I mean,
Not yet.
I mean,
Anyway, Carter comes into the briefing room and the crystal that is breaking down is forming radiation. So if Jack the clone is also breaking down, this could become serious. Carter remembers that the other one was looking at pictures from Jack's family, so they try calling and rush out to help. Hammond orders Teal'c to leave his weapon and hands him a cap to hide his tattoo.
no. You have to say what Teal'c says, though. Teal'c goes, "I have seen your world. I will need it." Oh my gosh, he is amazing. And then they give Teal'c his first hat. Teal'c
Yeah.
always wears hats or caps or whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
As long as it covers his forehead.
And it's funny.
And it's just always, he looks so funny in it. I don't know why. But this is his first cap. And he recognizes the logo because it's a sports club. And
Yeah, he probably
he
says
saw
a
it-
slogan or something. I
he
didn't
says,
write that down.
Yeah, he says which club it is, and then from the Windy City, Chicago, or something like that.
Okay.
And I just love his delivery. He's like trying to grasp this world, and all he had was some images on TV.
So he did see basketball or something.
Yeah,
apparently.
probably.
They have a lead on the hospital and they rush out.
Before we get into too much emotional death, I just wanted to point out Sarah is very much. She's made up with the same haircut as Carter. And she's also blonde. And I just noticed that, I don't know if I feel like they're already setting it up because it's not very apparent in the series yet. But there are these tiny moments that make me realize that the writers already have this will they, won't they in the back of their minds. That they're going to slowly lead up to. And I actually looked it up if there was any fan fiction about them.
And
Not as of yet of this moment, but now I'm wondering if that is maybe I looked too much into it because maybe AO3 just didn't exist back then. I should do more research into this. But the first fanfics that I could find of them were like 2-3 years after the first season. But that might have been, related to a fanfic purge too. I don't know. I will get back to you all on that. I will do more research.
we cut to the hospital where Jack wakes up next to Sarah and he remembers his son died in the in a hospital just like that. Or did he say it was that?
It was that one.
Yeah. And he repeats he needs to return to the Stargate before lightning starts going off, blasting lamps and anything with power. Outside, they are evacuating and locking down the hospital, and Sarah is being looked after by a nurse when Jack, the real Jack, rushes in. She's very confused, of course.
Yes.
And Jack goes into the room, putting on a radiation suit. He finds the other one on the ground, lightning flashing again. Carter arrives, the radiation is in the red, and the other one wants to stay away. He doesn't want to harm anyone. Another burst of energy throws Jack and the others back, and afterwards the radiation is down. The other thinks Jack has come to destroy him, but Jack says it isn't true. He says the Goa'uld are their enemies too. So Jack asks why the other one came to Earth, and he tells him that he tried to heal Jack after the knockout, but he didn't understand the injury. He saw into his mind, saw a warrior, but he now understands that Jack's pain is not physical, but from the death of his son. He thought he could fix it by bringing Charlie back, but he didn't understand that that was not possible.
Because it's another life form, and
Yeah,
they experience death
a different
differently.
way. Yeah. Jack says that Charlie is gone, but the other one says that's not true. Charlie is in his heart. And then we have a really nice dissolve where Jack reaches out and he becomes Charlie. And
We actually have a really cool dissolve even before that one, but you don't really realize it because nowadays they would just do that with a computer. But Jack reaches out and we pan along, and then you end up on Jack, on the alien Jack, with Jack just the back of his head, and there's a moment that it passes in shadow, and that's when they flip it, because then the person sitting in front is a different person. And it's so well done that you miss it, because Jack has taken off his thingy, so it's Jack. And then we pan along to the other Jack, and we end up with the back of the head of the real Jack in the same shot. But there's like a slight moment where you pass in shadow, and that's where they managed to splice it together. And it was done practical. You just had to. And nowadays, you wouldn't even have to think twice about these things. Well, you did. You have to plan it out. But
we still have to plan it out a little bit.
But back then, it was way more difficult to do. So it was just
flawless.
It was flawless.
It didn't register. I was just typing.
Yeah,
and
I noticed it and was like, oh, that was not hard. That was not easy to do back then. So they.
But the other one is also really well
Yeah,
done.
but that go on. I just wanted to jump back to that one.
Yeah. So the other Jack morphs into his son, and he tells him that it wasn't his fault that day. Then the others come in and they say they need to go. The radiation is really low. Low.
Oh, as in he's almost dead. Sorry. Okay.
Also in the fact that now that the radiation is low and it's not building up again, it's the perfect moment to go, because they won't hurt anyone and can get safely to the Stargate. So they don't really explain this, but implied. Yeah. Charlie wants to know if Sarah is still there, so they go out to meet her. She, of course, acts a little bit shocked, and Jack tells her it's not Charlie.
Which, in my feeling, he could have said just a little bit earlier. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you do.
He only tells her after.
After she sees him.
Yeah.
But I do feel like Sarah is smart enough to realize that something is going on and this is not Charlie.
She also kind of noticed what was wrong with the other Jack before, so it's a bit rushed, but it works.
I also like how Sarah is not stupid. She's a little. They don't have a lot of time to build her character, but you feel that this is a very smart woman. That, like, she feels like if you would have more episodes with her, there's a backstory there and there's layers that.
She feels really well developed.
Yeah.
It's not on the page maybe, but you can really feel their relationship. Like, she's not the angry ex-wife or anything. No, you can really feel that there's history and pain.
These were married people, and if this hadn't had happened, they probably still would be married.
Yeah, like she's not angry at him. Like she's never yelling. So you can really feel that they're trying to make it work, even though there's so much there.
You can sense that these were two people that were very, like, sad, deeply sad, but they were unable to,
to make it work.
To work through it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very normal in these situations. It happens
all the time.
Yeah. This is a very deep episode.
Yeah. So yeah, they go out to meet her. They have a little moment, and Jack tells her they need to take him back to the Stargate. She completes the sentence because she heard it a couple of times, and they have a passionate hug. Then they leave Sarah, and she watches them go, and she whispers after them to take care.
Can I just point out that child actor is doing a very good job at playing an alien as well. Sometimes you see child actors and you're like, where did you find this kid? They're atrocious. Which, no fault to the kids. I
No,
mean,
they're kids.
They're kids. But this kid is like really good at playing an alien. I just wanted to point
Some
that
good
out.
coaching, yeah. We cut to the gate room where Jack steps through the gate with Charlie to bring him back to the planet, and we fade to black.
It was a really good ending to an episode.
This was the kind of episode that, as a kid, I may have found boring, and now looking at it as an adult,
Yeah.
this is so good. Like, even with the limited time that we have with Sarah and Jack, you can feel it.
Yeah, like, and all these characters, they're only there for this episode, well, so far, but they feel very well developed. They don't feel like caricatures. This is
No.
a very hard word.
Even the dad, like we
Yeah.
said, it all works, and it deals with this trauma in like, to get at it from this alien way fits perfectly for the show, and it allows them to really explore this in a kind of different way. Maybe nowadays we've seen it a couple of times before, but back then I think it was really unique to do it like this and to choose to go there.
Yeah, because they could have just as easily just faded that out of his backstory, but it keeps being relevant because Jack will always, like, this shaped him. This is a core memory for him, and this will shape a lot of decisions still going forward.
Yeah, because in the previous episodes, it only gets slightly hinted at, especially in the pilot where they like recap the movie a little bit. But here they did choose to go all in and just tell that story. We didn't even get really this story in the movie, so it's really nice that they did this, and in a good way. I also find that this one has a better balance between main story and the B storyline. Like, we do have Daniel and Carter and Teal'c, but they have not a lot of time, but it's supportive to the main story, and it works because we focus on this main story, and it needs that focus.
Like, in, hang on, what was the story called where they sold Carter accidentally? That one more felt like we need to cut back to the other team because we are contractually obligated to have them in this episode. Here, it more felt like we are successfully using the B plot to nudge the tension exactly where it needs to be nudged, so it doesn't go like, this is depressing, this is depressing, this is depressing.
Yeah, and it all,
it works.
like, it gives enough attention to either storylines, and you don't feel like you need more of them than what they're doing, and that's a good balance.
Yeah.
That's what we needed in those other stories. If it's about Carter, just go for Carter, leave the other ones. There's gonna be other storylines with our main characters, so
Yeah, but to be fair, this is only episode 6. Writers and writer rooms too have to find, their balance. So maybe, maybe they just still have to get into it. This is also an Earth episode because you have a lot of off-world episodes, but once in a while you then get an Earth episode. So this is our second Earth episode. And I like it that the first one was centered on the base, and now this one went outside in the world for a little bit. I like that you don't always have to be like, oh, this is a sci-fi show, so it has to be off-world.
no,
So
that's true.
you can just as easily be very weird on planets.
Which will happen.
Yeah. I also like how we already got like backstory on Daniel now. We basically the pilots was Daniel losing his wife. And that gives us a lot of his story, and his story was already in the movie. And then we also got Carter, because with her ex in the last one, so we got a little personal information on her. Now we have one of Jack, so I'm probably guessing Teal'c's is coming up soon.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So-
we're gonna. I'm not sure if it's the next one, but we're gonna have the bloodlines in which we meet his son.
Yeah.
So we are going to find out that he has a son. We're going to meet Braytac.
I love Braytac.
So yeah.
Mentor characters can be hit or miss, but Braytac is just amazing. He's awesome. I'm running ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have one more note for this episode. Carter says "Holy Hannah" for the first time. She said it, and I'm like, I forgot she does that.
Okay. Is that another one of your counts?
Oh, the thing is, I keep tossing the notes of all the episodes, so this is a problem. But I mean, I don't even have an Indeed count yet because Teal'c hasn't said Indeed yet. I looked it up, and I'm gonna stop saying every episode that he hasn't said it yet because apparently it doesn't start doing it until season 2.
So yeah, that's
Yeah,
still a
but
while.
Carter does say "Holy Hannah" a lot of times. I love how people have these catchphrases. Like, is that? I feel like nowadays it's less a thing, but
Yeah, but it's also because episodic television is not a thing anymore, or less a thing. It does still exist, but not
yeah,
really.
but it's not. It was never as caricaturistic as in The Simpsons. Mm-hmm. But it still exists. So
But nowadays you have series that do full story arcs, so you don't have those opportunities anymore also.
yeah, but I mean, like Picard with his make it so.
But even there, in the Picard series, you'd have those once or twice.
Yeah, but those are
Like-
more like callbacks.
Yeah, because it wouldn't make sense that they would do it every episode because it's one big story.
Yeah, but then again, like for instance, Matt Smith's doctor. Those aren't his doctor arc. His doctor was very much big arcs, but he still says Geronimo all the time.
Yeah, but it's still episodic. It does have an overarching theme, but they're not one story. There's only, in the modern series, there's only Flux. That is one story for 6 episodes, which is also kind of a cheat because it's partly episodic, and it doesn't really work, but that's another
I
thing.
already deleted all
Yeah.
of that out of my mind. It's okay. Let's go back to fun stuff.
Yeah.
So what did you think of the episode?
I know I already said that I think Richard Dean Anderson is way better than people say he is. This one really shows it off.
Why do they say he's not as good as it?
I don't know. He's always been a TV actor, and
So?
and they used to look down on TV actors. Nowadays we have movie actors on TV, so that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, it used to be a bigger
There used to be
divide.
a really big divide. If you were on TV, it was very hard to break into movies, and vice versa.
Which is so weird though, because why would you look down on TV actors when you were obviously watching TV?
It has a lot of things to do, but TV is episodic. They have different kind of budgets.
Yes, and it's
And it's-
harder in a way.
That has gone away.
Yeah.
Nowadays TV shows have huge budgets, but they also have half the runtime and are not necessarily better for it. So it's I don't know.
I just never liked the elitist look of, it's like, oh, this sort of literature is better than that. My pronunciation is really bad today. I'm just sorry.
Oh, I've been mumbling along also. So no, but I think if Richard Dean Anderson would have come up today, he'd be a bigger star than he was. He was
I
a
mean,
big star, but
he
he was
has-
a star on TV.
He
you know?
has a big, he has a big back catalog. How do you say that?
He has some big series. He
Yeah.
was MacGyver. Then he went into Stargate. He did that for
And
at
I
least 8
do
years.
feel that if you're a TV actor, your longevity in the memory is better because a movie can so easily just fall through the cracks and be forgotten.
Yeah, because he were on TV every week.
Yeah, people.
So people still know who Richard Dean Anderson is.
yeah,
And there's
people know.
there's movie actors that were in huge movies that people don't know anymore.
Yeah, and everybody knows who Lucy Lawless is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this was a very strong episode. I really liked it. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Which is?
Well, let me check that.
You didn't check it beforehand? I keep thinking,
Oh.
which one is it?
The next one is the Nox.
The Nox?
The Nox.
Darkness?
No, we're gonna meet one of the first races.
Okay. I don't remember any of it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm really curious how that's gonna be, how that stands up.
I just made a very wrong assumption in my mind. I was like, oh, this was episode 6. So we only have 4 more before the season ends. Like, no, this is the 90s.
We have 21
we have
episodes.
21. I'm not used to it anymore, which is a good thing.
I must say, I kind of like episodic television. I'm glad Doctor Who still does it. And sometimes it's easier to binge watch 4 separate episodes than it is to binge watch and have your attention span over 4 hours for one huge story arc. So yeah, I kind of miss that too, and I'm glad we're doing this rewatch.
We're being very nostalgic and old.
Yes, we
Yes.
are very old. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up for today.
Yeah.
Maybe watch the next one.
Yes. If we can wrangle the TV.
Oh yeah, we'll send the teen upstairs. So we'll see you again next week, and we'll be talking about Nox, the Nox.
Where can people find you online?
Oh yes, they can find me on as @Arne Keusemans on Instagram and as @Iradonian on Blue Sky and YouTube.
And I am Evie Belknap on TikTok and on Blue Sky, and I downloaded Instagram again, but I didn't log in yet.
Oh,
So
I also have a TikTok as @Iradonian, but it's empty.
I just made him make it so I could send him videos.
And I haven't watched them yet.
And sometimes I can hear him like next to me on the couch, like, what is this? What is this evil
I'm too old
contraption?
for TikTok. It's so busy. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Bye.